In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern, taking a big look at the tropics as we have a very high chance of development out there in between Africa and the Caribbean. This current model that we're looking at does show this one striking the southeast United States, and of course that is very far out, so take it with a grain of salt, but what it really means is that that is a possibility, which if you watch yesterday's video shouldn't come as too much of a surprise, because really we can't rule out a strike anywhere, whether that's along the Gulf or the East Coast, or heading into the Caribbean, or moving up into areas offshore of the eastern states. Really anything goes as a possibility right now. We're also going to be talking about the storminess or lack thereof over a lot of the United States here in the coming weeks, and also very, very cold air compared to normal, really dominating over the next 2 weeks. Let's dive into it, and we of course have this model guidance on screen, and again, you've probably watched it one or two times. Strike into the Carolinas there, bring precipitation all over the eastern United States there at the end of the model run. Really interesting. We've seen initially a couple of days ago, the GFS model wanted this one way out to sea. Yesterday we saw it strike Bermuda, so something like that. I'll kind of just draw out the days there. So 3 days ago, 2 days ago, and then now today, we're seeing something a lot further west. So there's been a pretty clear trend on the models where we've been just jumping. This isn't even close to being a tick or a slight movement to the west. This is just jumping hundreds of miles each model run, and of course it can move away as quickly as it moved in, but it is significant to see this trend day over day over day. I mean, what's next? Tomorrow are we going to see this one just showing it move into the Gulf at this point, because that would be following the trend here? And again, it doesn't have to, it's just an observation that is quite interesting. But it really goes to show that really there's a lot of possibilities here within this range for this system. Let's go ahead. With all that being said, we'll track this one daily. I guess we should go over the percentages. We do have a 40% chance over the next 2 days of development, so nearly a 50-50 shot over the next 2 days, and then an 80% chance over the next 7 days, so a really, really high chance that we do see this one at least develop. And the outlook for the track could be very concerning. We're going to have to see how the models come together over the coming days, especially after this one develops, because that's when we're going to get a lot of good data. And I'm definitely curious to see what those models are going to be saying at that point. Let's go ahead and move over to Weather Bell, where we will take a look at all of your model guidance. Now, first things first, let's take a look here at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here from the National Weather Service. And as you can see, we do expect actually cooler temperatures, not only along the east, but we do see this kind of cooling trend over the west coast, where we've seen models and a lot of guidance overall just suggests that this area is going to be a little bit cooler than we originally anticipated. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's a negative PNA, which really just means cooler temperatures in this area, typically experiencing the opposite in the east. But really the problem here is that we actually do have very warm temperatures along the Rockies and some of those plains states, and that's enough to bring cooler air into areas along the more immediate eastern areas there for the 9th through the 13th. Of course, the central states are not going to be so warm for the days between now the 3rd and the 9th, but after the 9th, for that 9th through 13th, it is going to start to spread eastward again because of this cooling in the southwest and central western states. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, it's not too different. We see a little bit less of a cool signal there in the southwest. This warmer area is wider for the 11th through the 17th here of the month, and because of that, we end up getting cooler temperatures for a more exclusive area there along the eastern states. I mean, all the way past the halfway mark of the month. I think that it's really hard to forecast the placement of this warmth, especially since the models have already been a little bit off with it, that I think they're giving us a wide range here. I don't think it's going to be warm from Utah all the way to Kentucky. I think that there's going to be a warm air mass that falls somewhere in there, but is a little bit less wide than what we're seeing on screen here. Now, if it's centered more so over the Rockies, you can expect a cooler pattern overall here for areas a little further west than this map would suggest. But if we see it centered over more of the Midwest and deep South, maybe even going to see warmer temperatures where it's showing cooler there along the eastern states. So we have a few days, but as we get closer to this, we'll know a lot more, of course. Here's the first 3 days of September so far, and really it's been cool, cool, cool for a lot of the central and eastern states. It's been the trend since late August, and it's trickled into September now. And we really expect this to continue at least to the 10th, maybe even to the 15th here, especially again over these eastern areas. And then the West so far has been a more traditional positive PNA, as you can see. We just expect potential cooling, especially in the southwest area, which would shake up the pattern quite a bit. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of your storminess, or as I mentioned earlier, lack thereof, because it is going to get very, very dry. And if you're in the central and eastern states, it's worth noting that the best chance for precipitation that you have is probably over the next 5 to 7 days, at least over the next 2 weeks. So definitely the earlier half of this model run is more active than the later half, but even this earlier half is still below average precipitation. We're just getting almost none for the second half. You'll see what I mean. Before we really get into it, we do see a low here between the Great Lakes and Hudson Bay. And if you guys tune in daily, you've heard me say this before, but we oftentimes see these lows move exactly through this area, featuring a cold front. And it really, really tends to bring us into this very cool pattern in the east. So we're seeing that signal once again at the forefront of this big cool down that we've been anticipating. Now, we do have this cold front dragging behind, and that is featuring showers and thunderstorms. Nothing crazy, but there is activity up there in the plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes because of it. As we keep going towards Thursday, we see that cold front does actually intensify a little bit, and it brings more precipitation here to some of the Appalachian Mountain Range and Mid-Atlantic, and even parts of upstate New York there as well. As we're just kind of transitioning into this cooler pattern. Friday the 5th here, that low is still centered, again, mostly between the Hudson Bay and Great Lakes. Most of your precipitation, actually on this particular frame, is going to be for the Four Corner states into a bit of the plains there. Florida remains active, but that's to be expected. They kind of obviously dip down a lot further south into the more tropical climates, so it tends to be wetter there, even when we see overall inactive periods over the more northern areas of the states. As we just keep going towards the weekend, Saturday the 6th here, we do get this frontal boundary still kind of featured over the eastern states, bringing precipitation. But again, it's nothing crazy, and it's basically said and done by the time we're reaching early next week. Here's Monday the 8th, and we are very cool compared to normal in the east, and very, very dry. Almost nothing to discuss here in the east for this early portion of the week. Tuesday is very similar. Wednesday follows suit as well, so we're looking at multiple days in a row with nearly no precipitation. Thursday here, almost everywhere in the United States is dry outside of Oregon and Washington, as well as Florida, so this is just crazy, crazy stuff. Looking towards Friday, it's quite similar as well. Saturday here on the 13th, we start to see some activity across the Four Corner states, Montana, as well as the North Central states, but again, hugely, hugely inactive. And for the most part, we do get this tropical system actually here. I don't know if this is the same one that we're seeing on the GFS model, but it is worth noting that a low tries to form in this area, but it does kind of dodge the eastern states overall. I'll rewind this so we can watch it kind of move in, but it's going to do something pretty much like this. Watch it play out here. Moves through and kind of just rebounds offshore. Doesn't really bring a storm onshore. Definitely, since that's beyond 10 days out. First off, it might not even be happening. But second off, the track is very likely to be different by the time we're getting there. So it's something that we will monitor. But it is striking how inactive this model run is. And when we look at the total precipitation, we do see decent amounts throughout a lot of the West, actually. These areas are typically drier during the summer, late spring, and early fall, with a wetter late fall, winter, and early spring. So they're more of a wintertime precipitation climate. So to see this early on in the fall is significant, and this is for sure above average, but a lot of areas in the east are very concerningly below average, especially these areas where we're seeing grays and basically indicative of nearly no precipitation over the next 2 weeks. A lot of these areas have already been quite dry. So looking at the anomalies, I mean, This is crazy. Again, above average out west, but look at the east, especially these red areas are massively below average as far as precipitation. Certainly very dry and certainly not needed. We need the precipitation at this point, especially for areas in the northeast where they've had a huge lack of precipitation. This is just really not good. Looking at the temperatures on the European model, I'm sure a lot of you are curious about this. We do see this deeper cold air moving in. Really intense cool air over the plains and Midwest here, especially the 4th, 5th, 6th. In the greens, we're looking at 10 to 15 degrees below normal, and those purplish blues are 15 to 25 degrees below normal, which is a massive departure from what is typical. As we keep going, though, it does arrive for the east, especially for the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th here. Again, something similar to what the National Weather Service is seeing is this cooler air mass that starts to take place over the southwest. We really warm up for the plains and Midwest, but these East Coast areas hang on to the cooler air closer to the 15th. This is the 14th, 15th, and finally by the 16th, we get a little bit of a warmer time period here over the east. But even then, we start to get more backdoor cold air coming in. And what that means is it's coming from the northeast, so areas up there in eastern Canada, and moving down towards the southwest, which in this case is the Great Lakes, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic. We see this oftentimes, I've noticed, especially in the fall time. This is a fairly common type of pattern, but this coming right after this long-term cool down in the month of September is going to string along potentially even more days that are below normal. So really significant stuff. GFS model here. We're going to get a similar outlook, really long-lasting cool down here all the way until at least the 10th. Backdoor cold front there for the 15th-ish. And then we end up warming up as we approach the 20th. But we've seen this before on the models at the very end, or at least towards the tail end of the model runs, wanting to warm things back up. And then that date a few days later gets pushed back even further. So I'm not hugely confident in this pattern ending at any particular time. We're going to have to watch and see over the coming days. I am really curious to see what happens, though. Be sure to tune in with us as we do upload every single day, so be sure to subscribe. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.